Hi, the heart and soul of any change program is the people who are going to have to deliver it. It doesn't matter how much resources, positional authority, energy gets invested, if the people who want to, who you rely on to implement the program are not engaged in the program, it doesn't matter how much you throw at it, your experience will be like an executive walking through mud. And the results for your efforts will be very low, and you'll be left with the baby most of the time. The classic statistic that 70% of change programs fail happens to a large part not because of a lack of resources or planning or intelligence or even creativity, certainly not because of a lack of grit or effort. To a large extent, the reason change programs fail in organisations is really very simple. It's the degree to which people in the organisation identify their own personal commitment in the world with the outcomes that they're committed to accomplishing. I'll give you an example. I once led a program for Nike Asia Pacific. We had 20 or 30 of the senior executives from the entire region in the room. And the game was to create engagement, essentially, although it wasn't put that way, around the delivery of a 20 to 30 year transport contract across the Asia Pacific, 70% of their cost base. There was one guy in there in particular, and there's always one, who resisted the entire program. From day one, looking at his phone, throwing in barbed comments, etc. Somewhere in the process, he discovered for himself that he had taken this job at Nike because as a 7-year-old boy, he had been overweight and laughed at by his friends, and he decided that sport was his way out. So he had become a very fit, strong, and very senior executive in Nike from that decision he made when he was 7 years old. Now, the minute he made that link for himself, he went from being a complete problem child in the entire program, especially my program, but for the entire contract negotiation, to someone who was the CEO's biggest fan, greatest supporter, and a key driver of the entire thing, which took 2 or 3 years to negotiate and ended up saving the organisation about 20% of its income base and cutting its greenhouse gas emissions by about 15%. At least that was the projection. So the link for him between his personal commitment and the strategic outcome was fundamental to turning him from a barrier into a facilitator of the process. In your organisation, to the extent that you want your staff to be effective and engaged in any change program, you need to help them find the link between their personal commitment and the commitment of the organisation. And this shifts the organisation from relating to people as a tool, and it doesn't matter how you spin it. If they're not committed to the organisation, they're a tool for the organisation's outcomes, and they know it, to someone for whom the organisation is a vehicle for the fulfilment of their own passion and their own commitment. And the reality is, there is nothing that people won't do if it's for something they're personally committed to. If you can help them find that link, then you can unleash a degree of productivity, alignment, cohesiveness, positivity, energy, that there is no other lever that will give you that degree of engagement. The evidence shows that between a highly unengaged and a highly engaged employee is a productivity dividend of up to 600%. So there's big bickies in this, but there's also a deep sense of personal satisfaction in seeing another human being find their job to be a personally, to find the job as a personal passion, something that they want to grow into. The way you do it is you ask a lot of questions and you listen very intently for what it is that has them be in that job as opposed to some other job. Because the reality is most of the people in your work environment could be doing something else. They might feel like they couldn't be doing something else, but they probably could. And they're actually doing this job because something in them saw this as a fulfillment of something that they're committed to. And if you can help them unearth that, you can unleash a change-ready team like you've never experienced before and see your reward for effort multiply many, many times and become someone who experiences themselves as making a difference to the people in their staff, not having to drive them. So I hope this has been useful for you. It does take practice, so I recommend you start by just asking questions of your staff that you may not normally have asked. What got you to do this job before and not another job? How did you get into this career? You know, what is it that you wanted when you were a kid? What is it that you wanted out of this job? Any kind of question that is appropriate to ask them around what got them into this role and doing this work will give you an access and allow them to start to identify for themselves what that link is. Well, I hope this has been useful to you. It could utterly transform your relationships at work. If you want to know more about that process, I'm happy to field questions. Send us an email. Just ask me questions. I'm happy to answer them. And, you know, good luck.